Go ahead and adjust. I'm going to. Hey, everyone. It's Wally
and Nanette
from Supreme Gecko. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is going to be a fun one. We have Sarah and Andrew. They're all fun. We always smile and have a good time. We have Sarah and Andrew Gilpin from LAC Herps, and this is going to be an interesting live stream. I'm just kind of taking a look at everybody that's jumping in here. Okay, you want to read off some names? Are you bringing the live stream up too?
Well, I have it up on mine, yeah.
Okay.
J-Bug is here. Oh, look at that. Nanette's here. Frank's here. Jade's and Blended Germs. Creative. I just lost that one. Domestic Dinos. Stop doing that so quick. Angie's here. DNA Geckos is here. Bomb Exotics is here. Frank the Tank is here. Creative Corpulus, is that right?
Corolopus? Say the whole thing again.
I say it again.
Yeah.
Cora. You're making fun of me. Never mind.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. Creative Corolopus.
Hey, Rick.
Corolopus?
Corolopus, yeah.
There you go.
You know what that is?
No.
I bet you Andrew and Sarah know what Corolopus is.
Good. We'll find out then tonight, won't we? I'll learn something else tonight. Okay, that's all I can see on your screen right now.
I'm sorry. I'll scroll down.
Kayla's here. I think I just saw Kayla. Question Feeney.
Question Feeney? DNA Geckos?
DNA Geckos, I already said. Domestic Dinos, I said.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. We've been busy this whole week. We had a trip over to Michigan, which isn't a terrible long trip, 4 or 5 hours this past weekend. I don't know if I've recovered yet. So we came back and I had probably, and this is great, but it just takes time. I had probably about 150 messages to address Sunday night and Monday. Then it was catch up for the animals. We have a show coming up. I'm also, for the Buy Me a Coffee members, I'm coming out with a video probably next week that's taken me, I'd say, probably 2 weeks to come up with. And it's going to be special. It's going to be helpful, hopefully, for everybody that maybe is thinking about starting a business or taking your hobby and moving it into a business. It's going to be long. You know, my videos are normally about 5, 6, 7 minutes. I try to keep it down from the 2 or 3 hours of the recording and talking and blabbing that I do and try to edit it down to 5 or 6. But this one's going to be probably about 20 or 30 minutes. There's just so much information. So watch for that coming out. And I'm doing the recording and the editing this week. And we'll probably also look at getting a video out maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday or Tuesday as well. Different video for the gecko community. A lot going on. Went downstairs today, fed the leopard gecko room.
How long did that take you?
That took me, well, how long does it take you?
45 minutes.
45 minutes. I'm going to see if I can get these lights going again. For some reason, I can't get the lights going. 45 minutes it takes you to feed the leopard gecko room. It took me 3 hours. 3 hours. Now, I did the leopard gecko room, but I also did the 15s and the 10s and a couple of...
That takes me 10.
Weirdo geckos that I like to call weirdo. There we go.
You're slow.
But we also collected... I collected a lot of eggs. I collected probably... I'd have to say about 100 eggs. A lot of Hebidactylus, a lot of Pachycdactylus. Didn't do any crested geckos, obviously. Had a few leopard geckos, lots and lots and lots of Picta, Creative Corolopus. Creative Corolopus, catch me. I do have Pulixeri available. Catch me on a PM in Facebook for sure, especially if you're going to the Janesville show Sunday, a few days from now. Catch me and we'll make sure that we can make that work for you. So lots going on downstairs. We still have to get ready for the show. We'll probably take 100 animals or so to the show Sunday. So we still have a lot of labels to create, and certainly Saturday will be full of, and isopods. Saturday will be jam-packed with catching the animals and taking pictures and doing all that stuff. So lots going on here in the facility, in our house, with family included. Just tons of stuff. So all that aside, this has been a live stream that I have looked forward to doing for a long time. I don't know why. I think I'm just lazy. I'm just lax and procrastinating. Getting Andrew and Sarah Gilpin from LAC Herps on the show and talking to them about crested geckos. I've known Sarah and Andrew probably for 47. No, they're not even 47 years old.
No, I would not say
I've
that.
known Andrew and Sarah probably almost as long as I've been in the hobby. So correct me if I'm wrong, guys,
They're
but
not that
it's
old
got to be.
either.
Well, I think they were like 8 and 10 when we first
Yeah.
met them. So it's got to be 20 years that we've known each other, if not 20, over 15. I'm struggling with what even to say because about Andrew and Sarah, because they are into so much. They're not just gecko breeders. And when I say geckos, they're known for crested geckos. They're known for their sonorums. They're known for their chihuahuas. Oh my gosh. We've got a couple of pictures here. Wait until you see their chihuahuas. They're known for doing some of the best cresteds, Sarahs, chihuahuas, kahuas around, but there's so much more to this couple. It's incredible. From disc golf to photography, Andrew has shared a bunch of pointers with me. It still doesn't go into my thick skull, but some of the best photographs of geckos I've ever seen. And national speakers, I could go on and on and on and on and on, but just great people. I feel honored and privileged to call them friends. I doubt that they call me a friend, but I love this couple because they're just so good for the hobby, so good for the community. Without further ado, I've blabbed enough. Let's bring on Sarah and Andrew Gilpin from LAC Herps.
Hey guys, what up?
Hi.
That's quite the intro, Wally.
Yeah.
I think we should just end it here. I don't know if we can do any better than that.
Did we use up the 2 hours that I had scheduled for?
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm so flattered at this point that I don't know if we can do any better.
It's 100% honesty and from the heart for sure.
Well, we appreciate it.
You know, the funny thing is that normally I have just tons and tons and tons of notes and
That's all you have.
outline. That's pretty much it right there.
Wow.
Sarah and Andrew from LAC Herps. I'm over prepared. I'm over organized, and I always do some kind of an intro just in case I forget something.
Yeah, we'll just go with the flow this time around.
There you go.
We usually do. We just wing it.
This is, you know, I talked to you a little bit before the show. This is going to be a hard one because we could talk in generalities, and maybe this is a 2 or 3 or 10-part show. I don't know.
Maybe
We'll
so.
see. We could talk in generalities way up here about crested geckos, and we could spend 2 hours talking at this level. We could dive immediately into some of the most detailed information about animal care that you'd want to dive into, and we could talk on that for 2 hours. So we're just going to kind of play it by ear and see where this show goes. It's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining, and people are going to learn something. I absolutely promise that today. So tell me a little bit about Sarah and Andrew. Tell me how you guys met. Don't talk about anything geckos. Tell me about you guys. What drives your day? What gets you excited to wake up every single morning?
Well, he
What
said Sarah's
gives
name
you fun?
first, so. So she
Andrew's
starts.
the talker. Well, we met in high school. I was working at an ice cream store, actually, and he came in he came in frequently and would always ask for a quarter cone in the form of a large blueberry malt. And I would always do that for him. So,
Nice.
And then one day he came in and asked what we were doing that night. And then the rest is history. So we started kind of hanging out. And
Last year.
So did you charge him the first time, but then after that it was like, here's a freebie?
Oh, it was always at least a quarter.
yeah.
And do you still have those blueberry kind of ice cream?
We still go to the same ice cream shop sometimes and get stuff. So
Oh,
That was back in 2000. one.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Good memories.
One. Yeah.
So
So we've been together a long time.
what brought you guys together? What are the interests that you share where Sarah, you looked at Andrew and said, yep, this is the guy. And Andrew, you
I
looked
have
at
no
Sarah.
idea. No
I'm still
idea.
trying to figure that out.
Guys never do. Guys never do. It's like, me? Really?
Yeah.
Well, he just made me laugh, and then we'd go disc golfing together way back then. It was more just for fun. Then when we weren't competing, it was just something we would do casually. We'd go out. What else did we do? We just go out hiking and looking for frogs and everything around here, snakes and stuff, and yeah, and that kind of. And then he got me my first crested gecko when I turned 16. So that was back in 2002. I feel old. Yeah. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. We decided to get a few more and try breeding them, and the rest is kind of history. So
I can see you two I can see whomever asked the other person. I don't think it was, hey, would you like to go out for a cup of coffee or would you like to go to a movie? I bet it was, hey, I'm going cliff climbing this weekend. Would you like to go with me?
It was actually a lot more basic than that, and not in a weird pervy way, but I actually asked her if she wanted to learn how to drive a stick shift.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. So
yeah, but it wasn't creepy or anything. It was like actually learn how to drive a stick shift.
Yeah, I've got my finger on the mute button right here, and I'm real close to putting the 5-second delay on.
So yeah, no, that's what it was. I don't know, pretty simple.
Very cool. What was our first date, Nanette? Can you remember?
We went to a movie.
Do you remember the movie?
Oh, Heavenly Dog.
Oh, so that's
right?
a memory. Oh, Heavenly Dog. Yeah, like nobody
no idea
knows
what that even
We
is.
are really old.
Nobody knows what that movie is. So
Yeah.
Our second date, we took my sisters out to see Urban Cowboy.
that's because I thought your sisters were. Never mind.
Where's that mute button?
Yeah, I'll be permanently muted. So your first animals. Tell me about your first animals and tell me how it kind of. You mentioned the ball started rolling. Tell me about that first experience. What grabbed you with reptiles? Obviously, you were herping before, but what started you on the journey of keeping reptiles? What started you on the journey of maybe we should start breeding these and learning so much?
I just had kept like a few random species before I'd met Sarah, like bearded dragon and some other things. I think together we got like a frilled dragon and a blue tegu and just and yeah, I mean, we had like a little, at the time they called them Biberon's geckos, but I think it's actually a Turner's gecko or Pachydaculus turneri or Chondrodactylus turneri or whatever the heck it is now. And so we had a few random, just like individual pets. And then I got Sarah her first crested gecko for her 16th birthday. And so, yeah, so that's kind of what got us into crested geckos. And then we just added a few and produced a few, and then it just kind of added a few
more
every week until before you know it, there's like a lot.
So when did it go from this is a fun hobby to, oh my gosh, this is a lot? Was it that first year? Was it after a couple of years?
I think for most people that aren't just jumping full into it, it's probably, I can pay the cricket bill maybe after 2 or 3 years. And then you produce like 5 or 10 plainer animals to get one nicer animal or something like that. Because I was never one to buy into a project. It was like buy nice animals that are from really nice breeders and then kind of work my way up through producing nicer animals or trading for nicer animals that way. Because we've never really had the money to just buy into stuff like getting started on things. So it was just kind of add stuff that way. And then kind of up trading, might have to sell or trade 10 crested geckos to get one of, something else that I'm looking for. But that's always been worth it to me to do it that way. It feels like it's more rewarding, I guess.
I don't think people do that enough. I don't think that that's appreciated enough in the hobby as far as trading. Hey, I have this red crested gecko. Would you like to trade for this dark crested gecko?
Yeah.
I have these isopods. When I started with isopods, I had crested geckos and I wanted to get into isopods. I traded some 2 or 3 people crested geckos for isopods. It's just a great way without spending, a lot of money to get new and different animals into your collection.
Yeah, and even if you're not able to work out a trade, it's sometimes easier to look at, oh, I just sold these and I'm trading for this instead of I'm now out $200 for whatever it is I'm picking up. So mentally, sometimes it's a little easier to look at it that way.
It's super easy for me because it goes into one pocket like for 5 seconds, then it goes into the spend pocket right after that.
Nice.
Is there even a pocket?
Yeah, one hand to the other hand. That's pretty much it.
I can't believe we get to meet Bob Ross.
What's that?
Yeah.
I missed that. Who's saying that?
Out. It's way bigger.
Frank.
Yeah. I should have throwed it out. I've got some good afro pictures if you want to see
You
them.
had a good Bob Ross one too.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect.
I had a buddy Photoshop me into like a Bob Ross painting. It's real funny.
That's great.
Talking about your animals, you started small, the ball started rolling. When did you realize that this was something that you really, really wanted to do and you wanted to breed crested geckos? Kind of talk through that whole process. There's always a point where, a person that's really into the breeding aspect of geckos or whatever it is, that they realize this is what I want to do. This is, here's the path, and I want to narrow it down a little bit into breeding geckos.
I don't think it was really like an obvious point for us. It was more or less just that we enjoyed doing it and that we enjoyed at the time, like with the Repashy forums and Pangea and stuff, like making educational posts and stuff like that. And so it was pretty natural to just want to do that kind of stuff and try to be helpful, but also try to be, willing to learn. And I think that's the hardest part, especially starting off like younger. It's really easy to get like over eager. And I was definitely that person where I was like almost like obnoxious and just trying to get in there with, comments and feeling like I knew everything that was going on and learning how to dial that back and try to just absorb some information at the same time,
I think everybody goes through that though. And as we're talking, in my mind is rolling about 100 things that I forgot to mention about you guys in the beginning, your travels. And I'm going to tie this in as one, but it's so many other things, other points. You mentioned the forums, the Repashy forums. I'll throw out there that you and Kyle Salzman, Kyle and Crystal, if I ever had, oh my gosh, I don't know the answer to this question, and I don't even know where to start looking at finding the answer. I think you guys and Kyle and Crystal would be the people that I would go to. That would be, I have no idea how to answer this question. So doing everything else that you guys were doing years ago, running the Repashy forums, I got the sense that you guys really, really knew what you were doing. You say that, Andrew, you said that you had this, mentality of, we know everything. I don't think that came across in the Repashy forums whatsoever. I think that, back then it wasn't like Facebook is now. And I'll veer off of that topic real quick. I think that the forums were out there. It was a great place for me to learn so much about geckos, but it was a great place just for people to share and throw ideas at each other. Hey, what do you think about this? Without having you shouldn't even keep reptiles. You don't know. It was a very open place to go and chat. So again, you running that, I think that, part of the forums you're running, you guys are running. I think that is indicative of how, you dive all the way in, but you make it your own and you present it from an educational standpoint.
Yeah. Well, that's part of what got us into it a little bit was Alan. So Anthony Caponetto and Alan started the Repashy forums. AC actually built the foundation of that site. And then I was just there at the right time and right place. And Alan apparently didn't think I was too annoying to ask for help. He understood that I was eager to help, but was willing to give me the chance.
For you.
Yeah, he was helping channel my annoyance into like a focused subject, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure, but so he helped me just organize and break down the forums and stuff. And honestly, I kind of still wish that some of that stuff was out there, but it's kind of a shame how much work and time and everything that so many people contributed to put into it. Now it's just vanished. So
I'm going to get off topic and then I'll jump right back on topic, but real quick. The forums that we all knew, Geckos Unlimited, Repashy, social media today. What are the good points? What are the bad points in your mind?
Well, it's nice because you can see new things, whether you're necessarily like targeting them or not. You see certain things pop up, and so you get to see photos and information. But the downside for sure is the fact that almost nobody searches any subject. So you just have a constant repetition of the same questions or concerns or issues that pop up.
Yeah, you can't search Facebook.
Well, you can. It's just not conducive to like, it's not like, oh, hey, there's 10 posts related to this subject. It's like you search it and maybe you get part of that questionnaire, but it's not like a title for a post that you're looking at. It's an entire post, and it's just not, it's not a fluid, easy to find thing to search. So, and along with that comes instant gratification. I don't feel like there's enough people that like actually do even a shred of research on a lot of those posts. So there's a lot of time where I'll start like typing a response. I'm like, honestly, kind of what's the point? Because I feel like if I make this response, I'm going to have the same question again in 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it can be kind of overwhelming having to weed through some of that stuff and feel like you want to help, but that maybe it's not going to do any good because you're just going to have to do the same thing again 10 or 20 minutes down the line. So
100% agree. And Sarah, you brought it up. Nobody searches. Andrew, you said that you can, but nobody does. Nobody. Yeah. I don't feel people search enough. I'll do some searches once in a while. If I see a gecko that I'm interested in, somebody, a friend has one that they're offering, all of a sudden I'll go on and I'll research. I'll go onto Google or ChatGPT now, but I'll eventually go over to Facebook. I am cheating with that, but eventually I'll get over to Facebook and I'll kind of message a couple of people. Hey, what do you know? Any cure tips? But I don't think people do that. And you know what the unfortunate thing is? I'm gonna tag onto your response. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of keepers that have been in the hobby for a long time. I'm going to pick on Joe Hupp, for example. You don't see Joe Hupp posting out there saying, well, you're close. Really, what you want to do is this too. Or, no, that's not entirely right. You don't see that because I know a lot of other people are the same way. It's just not worth the time. It's not worth the time seeing the response right after that. Well, no, I've kept them for a year. This is how I've kept them. This is how you should keep them.
Yeah, you'll still see a few people that do chime in, but it's usually when they can tell that somebody's actually done a little bit of looking, or they're having a problem with something that they've already gone through most of the basic steps to try. Yes. And so you will see them do it a little bit, but it's not like straight off the basic, I just saw my animal do this, or it's having this problem. If somebody says, I read here and here and here, what do you guys think? Then you're going to be more likely to get a well-rounded response versus a generic one from somebody that has 2 geckos that is basically doing what I would have done 20 years ago on the forums, which is trying to interject and chime in, even though maybe I wasn't the best person to be doing so,
No, and again, I think that there was I don't know, tolerance is the right word, but I think there was an acceptance level, and knowing that If you posted in the forums, it was going to stay there. If you post on Facebook, it's gone in 2 days. So
Yeah.
you can say, keyboard warriors, you can say whatever you want on Facebook, and it really kind of doesn't matter that much, because even if you go back and forth, your answer is gone and nobody remembers in a couple of days. But
Yeah.
I went way off tangent. Sorry. I'll get off my soapbox. Tell me, we're going to dig a little bit deeper here. You've been keeping animals for a long, long time. Tell us where you're at right now. We have somebody asking, do they work for a living or just strictly geckos? Tell us about your facility. Where is LAC Herps right now? How many, and don't go into the real details of the facility. I want to talk a little bit more in detail on that in just a second. But
Sure.
in general, how many enclosures? What kind of animals are you keeping? Things like that.
We're keeping mostly New Caledonian animals. We do have some Australian leaftails and some other Australian species. We've got like some tokays and white line geckos and morning geckos and some other random things.
Some day geckos today.
Yeah, somebody just
Yeah.
popped in saying that we did a trade with them. We just got some four little clemeri from them, and they're looking awesome.
Nice.
We've kept a bunch of Europlatus in the past, like most species. Back when I think there were only like seven species. Now I think there's like 14 or 17 species of Europlatus. So we all knew that there were a bunch of subspecies or different species mixed in there, and wondered why none of them would breed worth a damn. But that's probably a good part of it right there. But other than that, we've got, I don't know, probably 120 like nicer PVC enclosures of various sizes, like the ones you can see behind us, and then various sizes. And then we've got 4 different sizes of bins for racks, and we've probably got 400 bin slots or so of various sizes.
Wow.
And it's all in a room that's maybe 420 square feet.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible. We had a question.
It's floor to ceiling, and there's an island of cages, but there's still at least 3 feet clearance all the way through all of it. So you got a bunch of space to move carts and stuff around.
We're pretty well maxed out now. We just did a little renovating, got some more racks in a couple months ago to maximize our space.
Yeah, so everybody says it looks nice having the racks and stuff all mounted on the walls, which it does. But when you have to move something, it's a real pain in the butt. Because we had to juggle some stuff around to maximize space a few weeks ago. And it took us almost a week in free time between other things to just move like 6 racks and shift other ones around and get some other cages mounted up on the wall. So it looks really sweet, and it's very functional and super nice when it's done. But it's a real pain in the rear to get everything nice and neat and flush and look like it's all one piece mounted on the wall.
Are they physically mounted to the wall, like screwed in?
Yes, they are.
Oh.
They're mounted like cabinets on the wall.
When you were,
Wow.
I have to ask the question, because I'm a second guesser all the time. So I'll do something and I'll spend weeks, spreadsheets and outlines and talking to people for changing a light bulb. But then I'll do something, and the minute I do it, it's like, oh, why did I do it like that?
Yeah.
Did you have, as you were installing these, did you have any second thoughts about installing them, on the walls?
Yeah. So we plotted it all out with like painter's tape on the floor and on the walls and everything else. And
we've gone through several different room situations too, from the first house we were in to the next house and then to this house. So we've been able to kind of really figure out what we like and don't like.
Yes.
So then we went ahead and just mapped the whole room out with painter's tape. And
it was a project, and it was just something that, like, every time we would do something, we'd bounce ideas back and forth. It was like, well, this could be a problem, or this might be a problem, or whatever. And we really dialed it in. We've got like an air exchange unit in here. So we like redid the duct work for the whole room. And we built all the walls and everything, because it was somebody asked what the size of the room is. the room was 2 rooms that were approximately total space 24 feet by 24 feet. And it was divided down the middle, like when we bought the house. So it's 2 super awkward, like 12 by 24 foot rooms.
Ooh.
So we removed the divider room, but we split off a section that's probably about 10 feet by 12 feet for a bathroom, which is where we keep all of our feeder insects. And we put like an 8-foot, like triple bay, like restaurant stainless steel sink in there.
There was no
Nice.
bathroom downstairs before.
Yeah. So there's no plumbing. There's no plumbing in the basement. The lowest drainage point's like 6 feet off the ground. So we installed what's called like an up flush toilet or a macerating toilet. And then you can drain the sink into that, and then it kicks it up into the septic pipe. So
that had to be like your first decision. We are going to have a stationary tub somewhere in this room.
Yeah, and a toilet downstairs.
Water, running water down here.
Yeah, nice.
So as far as ambient temp, it fluctuates quite a bit. It's like 72 to 78. It can definitely drop maybe to 68 at night. But it warms up quite a bit because we have almost all of the walls lined with heat tape for every bin slot. So essentially the perimeter walls are heat taped. And then on the cages behind us, there's probably like 60 plus cages that all have 20-watt puck lights that all dim for temperature control on herp stats. So that's like all the kahua, Saracenorum, guards, lychees. Those all have like a basking spot that's controlled off a herp stat.
I'm going to start over because I forget like after 5 or 10 seconds, but tell me again your ambient temperature. What is the room day and then night?
So I would say low at night, 68, but probably usually 72 to 74, and a peak of like 78. I'm probably not going to get into 80, but we've got we've got what's called an ERV. It's an energy recovery ventilation unit. So it's basically like a dual bathroom fan that has like an intercooler that like before the air goes outside, it absorbs the temperature of what's like coming in. So they sort of like mesh the temperature. So I have like an incoming air that's fresh from outside that's filtered. And then I have an exhaust vent on the opposite end of the room that pulls it out, and I can control those separate from one another. So like if it's warming up a little bit too much, I can just crank the exhaust fan up, and it's in a separate room. It's super quiet. So in the winter, I have it run a full room exchange like once or twice a day, at just like a little bit of flow, like every 5 minutes or like 5 minutes an hour. And then I have like when it's nice outside, it's probably doing a full air exchange 10 or 20 times a day, like throughout the room.
Is that your room?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm showing pictures of your room here. And here we go. Here's a really, really good picture.
Wow.
So what was the incentive? What was the reason for putting in the air exchange? What was your concern?
Well, we're in the Midwest. I mean, the number one thing that everybody in the Midwest knows is you basically don't get to open any windows in your reptile room for 4 to 5 months out of the year, right? It's too cold.
We have no windows anymore.
Yeah, and now we have no windows after the last room shift. So we completely blocked the last window off in here. So this is nice because I can control airflow in and out of the room. And the fresh air comes in right when you walk in the front door, like right when you walk in the doors that go in. And then opposite corner of the room is where the exhaust air gets pulled out. And you can branch off of that unit, and you could have multiple intake and multiple exhaust setups if you wanted to. But go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the idea behind mounting all the cages on the wall like that is so if an animal gets out, it literally has nowhere to go. I mean, they literally just hang out on the pothos plants, the fake trees and stuff. There's nowhere for them to go in this room. And then you can pass your arm or anything straight through all those cages for access for lighting and misting system adjustments and stuff like that.
We have a small piece of screen like behind the edge of the cage there.
Yeah.
Just so nothing can slip back behind
the
back wall, but it lets air still flow through too.
Wow.
Yeah, so all the cages are mounted about a ½ inch off the wall, but airflow can actually go behind the cages.
If you didn't have the airflow, would you be concerned about maybe excess moisture building up? Maybe,
Yeah,
simulation.
we wouldn't be spraying nearly as much, certainly.
There you go. Okay.
But right now, as it is, we'll increase airflow and increase. Sometimes we'll just open up the door to the room because the rest of the basement's pretty cold. So we'll just open up the main doors and just run a fan through here to cool it off a little bit if we have to. But overall, it stays really pretty stable. So humidity fluctuates between, in the winter, if we didn't have stuff running in here, it would be about 16% in the basement.
Oh.
But I've got 2 humidifiers set up automatically off our RO system, so I never have to fill them. And the automatic setting on those works pretty good. So if I set it at 55, it'll set pretty much lock in on that. I don't like to keep it stable. I like to have a fluctuation of like 55 to 75%, but with the airflow, I just kind of shift it in and out. So
you're running RO water. You must have a huge RO unit.
We go through on feeding days, we might go through like 4 to 5 gallons of water. But when the misting system and stuff is running, it's not running that much. So I've got a tank it's like an 11-gallon RO tank that I think holds about actual like 7 gallons of RO water. And I rarely run that, or I rarely run that out. I do use it for like rinsing my cars off when I wash the cars and stuff too. Because well water is super spotty when you try to wash a car. So
I have to relate something that I'm going to bring his name up again. Joe Hupp mentioned to me that was just brilliant. So you can probably see, I can never do this right. Here's my fish tanks in my office. So in the summertime, we don't run, air until it gets to be, oh my gosh, it's intolerable. So turn on the air, because if I do turn on the air too soon, then the animals and the temperature drops. So I've got the fish tanks in here. So in summer, before we turn on the air, it's a bath. It's a sauna in here.
Yeah.
So Hupp, though, has fish tanks in his gecko room to help with the humidity. And I thought, wow, that's pretty smart. You guys, I'm looking at your pictures. You have plenty of room for like a few 55s in your gecko room.
You would never. I'd never see that much island space.
What's that, Sarah?
We could make a couple more islands if we really had to. It would just get pretty tight in here.
On rollers, and you could just roll them around.
This is not tight.
Brilliant.
We've got all of I think later on there'll be some shots of some of the islands of cages that are like all opened up. So we do have some stuff on wheels in here. We'll get to it later. We've definitely got some stuff on wheels in here.
I'm going to see if I can get back over there, and we're going to see a couple more pictures of.
I feel like if it's not wall mounted, it's on wheels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Before I keep going, I've got to ask this question. So you've got puck lights.
Yeah.
Are you controlling the temperatures for some animals more than others? You mentioned earlier, and I'm going to tag onto that because I can't stop talking. You mentioned that it's like almost 80 degrees in there. Oh my gosh, you guys, 80 degrees is fatal for crested geckos. What are you thinking?
Yeah. No, they're fine. Just a heads up, it gets to like 90 degrees in New Caledonia. In some parts, it'll get like 95 plus. So
obviously the sarcasm and yeah.
Yeah. No, I will agree. I do still tell people that are buying crested geckos, like, really are not shooting for anything in the 80s. Yes. Like if the room gets to 80 or 82, like we're going to try to cool it down. And it's not because the animals can't tolerate it. It's because they don't thrive in those temperatures. Yes. So if they're healthy and they're well hydrated, they're going to tolerate temperatures of like mid to upper 80s for like a half a day or a day. But you start hitting like upper 80s and like into the 90s, it can definitely be a death sentence for them for any kind of an extended period of time.
I'm marking a bunch of questions here. And folks, please put your questions in. I'm starring them, and we're going to come back to a couple of these. I want to show the room again.
Well, so you asked about the puck lights.
Yeah, please.
So I've got each row of cages is set up on a different, you can see the herp stat there on the second row towards the left side of the corner. And And so that's controlling each row of cages separate from one another with a separate temp probe. And I have the temp probe down like maybe 4 inches from the top of the cage set to 78 degrees.
Okay.
But those puck lights get hot. So I've got those set to a maximum output of 60%. And then they dim in and out to keep the cages 4 inches from the top at 78. So they have a basking spot if they want it at probably 85 degrees. And everything uses it. So every species of New Caledonian gecko will use a basking spot into the mid to upper 80s if they're given the opportunity. They just have to be able to get out of it if they want to.
I will guarantee that there are many, many people in the chat listen or that will listen to this afterwards that didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so they need to be able to get out of it for sure.
Yes,
the nice thing about the nice thing about the herp stat is I can control the maximum output and then also dims the light. So it's kind of cool. It's almost like a rolling cloud cover, you know, where the sun kind of dims, it gets overcast and then it pops back out. Like the cage is just automatically dim, like to control temperature. And then I also have it ramp up for 2 or 3 hours in the morning and then ramp down for 2 or 3 hours at night. And that's pretty easy to do with the night cycle settings on the herp stat. So it's able to give them a more natural temperature gradient without, like, if you just stick a 20-watt puck light on these cages are 16, 16, 24, it'll get like 90 degrees in there and it gets nasty warm. Like it's hot. So having that control is really nice. And then we've got LED puck lights also. So what you're looking at there is all LED puck lights for ambient lighting. And then the halogen lamps are just for temperature control.
Talk to me more about those LED lights.
There's some super cheap Amazon LED lights. I rewired them. So I have all of the cages that you can see in that one photo are powered on one power supply up in the ceiling.
Wow.
And I have a pass through in that back corner that wraps around so I can fish all the electrical misting system tubing and everything like up through the corner. So you can't really see much of it. But when I have the opportunity, I rewire a lot of stuff because I want to eliminate as many outlets as possible while still safely utilizing the proper gauge wire and everything for the load that's going to be on the system. So like for an example, the 20-watt puck lights, you can link 10 of those together. Instead of having 10 plugins, one for each light, I have one plugin for 10. And I can run that off of one herp stat controller. And actually I can split the herp stat off and run all 16 cages, 17 cages that you can see there.
What kind of puck lights are they? Are they just kind of a generic?
Yeah, so getting a hold of the halogen puck lights is getting problematic because everything's switching to LEDs. So I contacted, I think the company was American Lighting. They're based out of Colorado, and almost nobody sells the halogen puck lights anymore. So I contacted a distributor, and I just bought like a couple hundred like wholesale off of them. They set me up with like one of their vendors and just like jumpered it through that system. You can still find them on like eBay and like maybe the Home Depot and Lowe's websites, but you have to make sure you're looking at halogen or xenon. And then if I get the xenon ones, I swap them out for some cheap halogen bulbs from Amazon because the xenon bulbs are like bright blue and I don't like that look very much.
Yeah.
Question about what maximizing airflow without compromising.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So PC fans, I haven't set it up yet, but my misting system can control all the ventilation for caging too. So I plan on using my misting system to control USB or PC fans. But really that's just trial and error. It's a matter of like seeing what works and what doesn't work. If I put these little PC fans on these cages, I'm probably only going to run them for 5 minutes, like a couple times a day, just to get some positive airflow through the cages. If you're trying to run airflow all the time, like I still manually mist almost everything that's on the misting system at least twice a week. So even with like a misting system and everything else, you're still going to have fluctuation based on where the cages are in the room and whether they're near the ground or the top level or whatever, they're going to fluctuate quite a bit. That's another nice thing about having the herp stat set up the way that we do is so I have like the lower cages miss less than the middle and miss less than the top, but then the herp stat helps control that, because since the lower cages are going to tend to be more wet and they're going to tend to stay colder longer just due to elevation in the room, the lights are going to run more, and that's going to help dry it out more. So you kind of get like a natural balance with where they are in the room with the herp stat controlling each level by itself.
So some of these things that you're talking about seem obvious. Lower tanks will stay a little bit cooler than higher tanks.
And more humidity and less airflow usually.
But you know how you're controlling this room and all the consideration that you're taking into the location of the enclosures, the timing of the day. You probably remember Harold Chapman.
I do.
Great guy. But he kind of drilled it in my head about day geckos and not needing UVB. You know, turn it on at 8 o'clock in the morning and turn it off at 8 o'clock at night. His point was day geckos don't do that. They go to the bright side of the tree, the sunny side of the tree, then for 10 minutes, and then they come around.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is trying to get closer and closer and closer to how they're to nature, how they're reacting in nature, how they're living in nature. Not that we have to be perfect, but what you're trying to do is emulate as much as possible to what is happening in nature.
I like to try new things, and I also like to try to solve problems. And so it's just a matter of doing those things in a way that helps the animals do better. I mentioned at Flora Fauna, I like to refer to trying to have the animals thrive rather than just survive. You know, I think we're all at a point, or most of us are at a point where we kind of want to do the bare minimum just due to time and other things, but you want to do more than the bare minimum if the animals aren't really doing great. So we're constantly trying different things. Could we do more? Absolutely. Are we trying to do more? We are trying to do more.
There's a morning gecko that's out.
Oh, Sarah says there's a morning gecko that's out. Where do you see it?
Behind the leaves up there.
Catch it. Get a fish net or something and catch it.
Yeah, so you saw the pothos that were mounted.
Yeah.
It's cruising through those apparently right now.
And since it's been out for a week, it's laid 160 eggs.
Possibly.
Probably.
Was it an adult or a little one? I still don't see it.
It's like medium size.
No, Sarah's gonna try to snag it so we can throw it on camera for you. But yeah, that's some stuff we're trying. I don't personally keep UVB on anything but just a few specific animals right now, but I am really wanting to get it on some of the kahua and many other animals. I just need a different option that's not currently available on the market, and I'm working with a couple companies on possibly changing some stuff for UVB. So Sarah caught it. It's a pretty
one.
Oh my gosh.
pretty small one.
Very cool.
I'm sure we got out of the middle of the cage where we don't have the.
I think it's taped now. They like to get out randomly. Sometimes we'll pack up 10 of them to ship out or whatever, and they just kind of go shooting everywhere. So
that's their job, is to escape. That's what morning geckos do.
Yeah.
You talked about thriving. We need to do more with our animals than to just have them be okay. We need to have them thrive. The problem is that we're confronted with is that crested geckos are so doggone easy that you can make a gazillion wrong decisions, mistakes, and they'll still lay eggs and they'll still have babies. And I'm a crested gecko breeder. Yay, even though I've done so many wrong things. So I like your attitude.
Our tokay is calling in the background.
Is it barking?
Yeah.
Or
Can you hear it?
yeah.
Unbelievable.
We need tokays.
No, we don't.
Just have
He's
one.
lonely right now.
Hey, that tokay that's calling is 200 grams, Wally.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Huge.
Yeah, that's like 60 grams bigger than some of our smaller lychee species as adults. It's
Can
like
you
almost
pet it?
14 inches long. I can take it out and you can kind of pet it, but it's
Really?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a project getting them out.
No.
The thing's pretty big.
Hey, the whole thriving thing, I want to talk about UVB bulbs. So if you ask 99 out of 100 crested gecko breeders, New Caledonia keepers, gecko keepers, 99% of everybody are not running UVB lights.
Correct.
Why do you feel, wink, wink, why do you feel UVB should be used with crested geckos?
So I should specify, I'm not particularly interested in using them for crested geckos.
Okay.
I'm more interested in utilizing it on Kahua, and probably the next top on the list of New Cal stuff would be Sarah Sonorum.
Okay.
And that's based purely on activity that I see throughout the day in cages with basking lights, and I'm testing some UVB and definitely see some different behaviors with where animals are hanging out and what they're doing and stuff. And I just feel like it's certainly not going to hurt anything aside from your wallet. And right. I think that there's probably some benefits there, whether people want to admit it or not. So I think there are some species that would certainly benefit from it if given the opportunity to have it. I've got a few things that I would really like to see in the products before they hit the market, before I'm going to spend 10 grand on UVB lighting for the whole collection.
Anything in particular? This is kind of interesting. I feel like I know so little about UVB.
Same.
Anything in particular that you feel that isn't being provided by the current UVB manufacturers?
It's all in the build style of what is available. Fluorescent fixtures are out the door. Everything's going to switch to LED. I'm all about efficiency, as you can tell with our setup.
Yep.
And I don't like wasting energy. I don't like wasting product that then goes into the trash, like a fluorescent tube. I'd rather spend 3 or 4 times the price, have it last 4 or 5 years, have it be significantly more efficient. I mean, a 12-inch fluorescent bulb that we use here, I think is 20 watts. And you can get, if you're looking at like VivTech, and their bulbs are 3 watts. Okay. Yep. If you want the heat, that's great. But I'm already hitting 78 to 80 degrees in this room. If I add 20 light fixtures that are 60 watts a piece, it's going to make this thing 85, 90 degrees. And all of that heat is 100% wasted energy unless if you need it. So I just feel like, yeah, the products that are available right now were great 10 years ago, but the LED tech is there.
Yeah.
People are just not utilizing it. I like the concept of the VivTech setup. I've talked with Ryan about some changes that I would really like to see. I'm not going to go into them here, be it in case he does them or doesn't do them.
Yep.
I've also been discussing and testing some ZoomEd products that I've got here right now, which has been pretty interesting. But again, I'm not going to go into what I think that they should do or what I would like to see. So their competitors don't try to copy it or whatever.
Didn't you find out too with the UVB meter that people probably aren't actually putting out what they think they are?
Yeah. So if you look at like an Arcadia, I think the lowest shade dweller Arcadia is 6% or something like that. And I think then ZoomEd's like 5%. So if you look at on the UVB meter, if you have a UVB meter and you're looking at it, a kahua or like a shade dwelling animal is supposed to be like 0.6 to like maybe 1.2 on the meter for a range. Okay. That 6.0 is a 6 on the meter. So it's 4 times the maximum recommended for a kahua at 6 to 8 inches from that bulb. So you have to have like some shade, some, ficus leaves or stuff for animals to find like where they specifically want to be. And what I found interesting when I was testing it, Shane from ZoomEd let me borrow his meter for a few weeks after the last Tinley to test out a product. What I found interesting is the animals like our satanic leaf-tailed geckos and some other things that we have been keeping UVB on find that exact spot. So if you meter it where they're at, they're in that exact like Ferguson zone or whatever that people recommend. And they'll be right at that like 0.6 to 1.2 and be just like partially exposed to the sun. So they find where they want to be. But if they don't have the option to get out of it, most animals are probably getting too much, or they just go completely out of it and they don't probably meter the way that they want to be in and out of it. Even like my blue tree monitor and stuff, like that thing's sitting in an area that's double probably what it's recommended for.
And the point that you're making is, though, I'm going to add on to what you're saying here. Your setups are structured because you've been in the hobby for a long time. You have the knowledge, you have the experience. You guys have the knowledge and experience to be able to provide gradients, ranges, so that the animals can move around to their comfort level. Whereas, I think, unfortunately, a lot of people that don't understand UVB or heat or lighting, or they'll put the items, the equipment on their enclosures and say, I've got the heat on, I've got the UVB on, and then the animals don't have anywhere to go to get, less UVB or less heat. And that's ultimately the problem. And sometimes that's a bigger problem than not having, the heat elements or the UVB light on in the first place.
Well, and like I have people ask all the time, like, why do we run the heat tape on everything? Why don't you just heat the whole room? Okay, well, fair enough, right? You get some ventilation in here to kind of keep it, fairly equal top to bottom and all around the room, which is harder to do than you might think. I still like having a temperature gradient. I like them to be able to have a warm spot at the back and a cooler spot in the front. And I also we only have animals in one room. I don't have a hot room and a cold room. I've got satanic leaf-tailed geckos in here. I've got a few other species that, really shouldn't be in the mid 70s or above, like for continuous amounts of time. And they're doing pretty well in here. So being able to just control, each cage by itself and not have the whole room sitting at 80 degrees all the time, everything would probably do okay in that. I just like to be able to give them the option to do what they want, or, to control it. So
I'm going to rephrase what you just said because I know you. You said, I'd like to give them a gradient. You give them a gradient because you watch your animals and you have the experience to back up the point of them needing a gradient and using a gradient, if I may.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because we don't have the heat tape set super warm. I think it's set to like 80. I could set it up probably 82, 84 and everything would be fine and have a bit more of a gradient. But even having that 80 degrees at the very back edge of a 6-quart bin, at the front of the bin, it still has 74, 76 degrees. It can still move out of that hot spot. And a lot of stuff at the beginning of the day might be at the warm spot or right before it gets more active. And then they're just cruising around the bin. So
you're doing different things. So you don't have the room heated. You have individual, the heat, the lighting is on individual enclosures. Do you find with your animals through the different species, different requirements or different needs or different desires?
Are you talking?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Crested geckos, gargoyles, cercinorums, kahuas.
Yeah, so they will all certainly use a hot spot given the opportunity. So there's zero question about that in my mind. If something has a basking spot that's not just straight baking it, it's going to use it. Even if it's for 30 minutes first thing in the morning or whatever, like, all of our lights just go out. Nice. I don't have it set up to run the thunderstorm. I don't know if you saw that video or not right now.
I did not.
I had the misting system set up to kill all the lights in the room and run a thunderstorm and strobe lightning when the thunder would hit and the misting system going off.
Do you not have your phone? Can you not turn on thunderstorm now?
I could.
Do a thunderstorm.
Do it.
Do it.
It's actually a little more tricky having it control all the lights in the room because I had to rewire those into outlets because I needed to use like RF RF controllers through the misting system for that, but it worked.
Honest to God, seriously, if I ever visited you, you could take all the animals out. You could take all the animals out of the enclosures, and we could spend all day. I could spend all day talking to you guys about the enclosures and the lighting and the heat and misting and everything about the whole room setup. It's just fascinating.
It's nice having all the little gizmos and gadgets and stuff. Most of it's just to make things more efficient. You know, we've got tied into the misting system. We've got spray wands that'll reach anywhere in the room. So Sarah and I can both be like manually spraying cages.
Nice.
And that just runs straight off of the RO water. So they're on these, Sarah's grabbing one. They're on these flex lines that just reach anywhere in the room. Oh, thanks.
Thunderstorm, yeah.
Yeah, that's the low pressure setting. So we have a low pressure and a high pressure off the. Don't show them the high pressure.
This is like my favorite thing. So
Yeah,
it's been a lifesaver.
So this is going over to the like a sump, like a pool or a container. Obviously,
it runs off of, you know, like you've probably seen like little under the sink RO drinking water, like the little mini tanks.
Yeah,
it's like an 11-gallon tank version of that that's in the basement bathroom, and then I've just got all the misting system lines running through the drop ceiling, and I actually have a line running upstairs to the kitchen sink that runs off its own tank off of the basement RO system too. And then I only run one pump for 14 zones on the misting system.
Oh my gosh. I've got to ask, what is your misting system? What misting system are you using?
Our friend Ryan Turnquist put it together.
Okay.
I'm not at liberty to disclose the control panel on that so much, but if somebody's interested, have him shoot me a message and I can get him his contact info. Basically, he worked for the St. Louis Zoo for a long time, setting up misting systems and plumbing like enclosures and stuff. And I've been getting all my supplies from him for like 10 or 12 years now. But it's a pretty elaborate setup. It's pretty sweet.
I was just going to say, I've completely gone away from my notes because I don't know if I even...
The notes that you didn't have?
Yeah. I don't think there's any purpose.
The 4 pages you didn't have.
We have a lot of questions sitting out there. So I'm going to jump back to our questions. I think we asked about...
you already did that one.
Did we do?
Is
this a living?
Yeah.
I'm going to show this one.
Oh yeah, somebody did ask, but I never answered. It was part of another question actually. We both do this full time now. I was working as an automotive mechanic for 18 years up until January of 2022.
I did not know that. Congratulations.
Thank you. And
I was a vet tech for almost 20 years.
Long time.
And just quit my job last November and started doing this full time too. So, but this is definitely a full time job. I keep telling Andrew, I'm like, I don't know how we were doing this before, and working our other jobs, you know. So,
how hard was it to walk away from? I mean, I know you guys. You both loved your jobs. You built up a lot of experience. How hard was it to walk away from that and say, let's just do geckos?
Yeah, our Tokay is barking again.
Listen to that.
Oh yeah.
Nice. He wants to be part of the show.
He needs a girlfriend.
We've been talking about it honestly on and off for probably 5 or 10 years, and it just didn't really make sense to do it at the time. We don't tend to rush into things, especially if it's like risky, something like that. It would have made sense to do it, honestly, now that we've done it. But we wanted to have enough for house payments for 2 years. You know, we wanted to have enough for other things like ready to go. So it's not as stressful, because I think I think people that try to do it as a living and just jump straight into it, it fluctuates way too much. I could sell what I made at my day job in 2 months selling geckos, and then I might not sell anything for 6 months, you know. And knowing that and being able to see those fluctuations and those swings for 15 years, you know, helped us realize, okay, we know this is going to happen. We don't have to freak out. We have the money sitting here. it's ready to go, and we kind of know we know what to expect, I think, at this point. And also both of our jobs were great. They were super flexible as far as like schedule goes, but I mean, let's face it, we pretty much maxed out what we were going to get for benefits, both working for small shops and stuff. It just, there's only so much a small shop can offer somebody for health insurance or lack thereof, and pay and vacation and stuff like that. And neither of us really had anywhere to move up. So it just made sense to move on. If somebody wants to see the Tokay, if both of us, if either or both of us had significantly better benefits, like a university job or, you know, something like that, one of us probably would have kept at least enough hours to maintain something like that. But paying healthcare out of pocket is worth it for us to have the flexibility to do what we want when we want. And we travel a ton for Sarah's disc golf tournaments and for like other things. So it's really nice to be able to just kind of come and go as we please, or, you know, we need to go out and do some disc golf practice from 8 o'clock in the morning to noon because it's going to rain at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we normally would have gotten off of work and stuff like that. And just being able to shift stuff around like that is really nice. Should I grab the Tokay?
If it's up to you guys, for sure.
I'll try to get him out. Sarah can keep
Okay.
him.
He trusts Andrew more than I get too nervous around him. I think he picks up on that.
I think they do.
Smart.
I think they do. They
yeah.
kind of sense that.
Yeah,
You guys leaving your jobs and doing geckos. I'm so happy for both of you.
Thank
but
you.
I know that it was a tough decision, even though you thought about it. For me, I retired a few years ago. It was a hard decision because I am just risk adverse. I don't like risk whatsoever. So that was hard.
The same way. So what I did is I backed off to just like halftime last March, just to kind of see how things were going, make sure, ease myself into it instead of, I don't know. And the people at my work were like family too. So it was, it's hard to leave somewhere when you've been with them for 18, 19 years, whatever it was. So, but yeah.
And you guys, not that this would ever happen, but if it didn't work out with the geckos, you guys could jump back into the workforce in a heartbeat. You could jump back in tomorrow. So
yeah, for sure. Yep. There's, whether it's with what we were doing before, I'm sure we could find something. Like everybody's hiring. So
exactly. Well, Andrew's away. I'm going to ask you, Sarah, do you guys ever have trouble? This is from Frank. Do you guys ever have trouble reaching the top enclosures for feeding and cleaning?
We have a step ladder that we have to use. So it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but we're used to it. So, it's not too big of a deal.
I've we've done a lot of changes in our facility. I've recently stopped adding tanks on the bottom because it's just so hard to get down there. Oh, so cool.
It's pretty dark right now, but he's from my middle finger up to the middle of my forearm.
I don't want
My
to.
Look at how big that thing is. Wow.
That's like a Nile monitor. I don't think that's a Tokay.
He's pretty grumpy.
You're live.
Yeah, he doesn't look very happy.
He is going to take a chunk out of your finger.
Live.
Very nice powder blue. He's super dark right now.
Wow.
But yeah, he's fluctuates between 190 and 200 grams.
Wow.
What do you feed this guy?
Just crickets mostly. He'll eat some
Really?
dubia and stuff too, but he actually needs a diet. He's got some little fat rolls going on down here.
It's all the crickets. What's on his eye?
I don't know.
Orange spot.
I see the. Oh, are you? Oh, he's going Tokay. He's going Tokay on us here.
We don't need one of those.
I heard if you bring it up to your earlobe, it calms them down. That's what I've been told.
I hang out there the whole rest of the time.
I've had a Tokay bite onto my shirt for like 45 minutes before and not let go. So
no,
I found the best way to get them off is literally to just put them in their cage and lay them on a branch and leave them biting onto your hand or whatever they're latched onto. And then eventually they'll let go and run away. But people are like, oh yeah, dunk it underwater and whatever else. I'm like, man, I've held this thing underwater for like 4 minutes and hasn't let go yet. I don't want to kill it.
Nope.
So you get bit by a 50 or 60 gram crested gecko, and they don't. I don't feel crested geckos bite. They nip to kind of let you know. Did it
Yeah.
get you?
Yeah.
It bit me, but it's like it does like a little warning nip. It's not like a full on like death roll bite. It's just like leave me alone kind of bite. Like it's not even this. I've had way worse bites from 60 gram kahua.
Do you think that it just knows you, so it's not going to?
Whoa.
I'm gonna go put him back.
He's like,
But
Yep.
Sarah's like, get that thing away from me.
he has lightened up a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's big.
I
Oh,
like
look at
him,
that.
but I don't hold him.
No.
Any thoughts of breeding, Tokay?
Yeah, we've got some going.
We've hatched out a few. He needs a new female, but
You better shape up then.
yeah.
Nobody's going to want to be by him.
Last year we had a few clutches that hatched out though, so they're
Nice.
fun. Yeah.
How big of an enclosure for that guy?
We have him in one of the 16 by 16 by 24s.
Oh, okay.
He could
Yeah,
probably use
people
it. He
might
could
not
probably-
like that too much. He'd probably do better in something double that size.
Yeah.
By himself, he's not too bad right now, though.
But you bring him out and let him run the room, and
I haven't taken him out since Devin Hughes was over here. When was that? Like 2 months ago?
Oh.
Yeah, maybe before Tinley. I haven't had him out.
Was he the one that would get out of his old cage?
No.
Was it-
Tokays are probably the smartest gecko. They'll figure out how to like open sliding glass doors and stuff.
really,
They'll like
We're not
hand
getting
walk
one.
them and push them open.
Nope.
Yeah.
There was a while where Andrew and I were blaming each other for leaving the Tokay cage door open.
outstanding.
Yeah, because they got out. So we put a camera up and caught him. Like he would get on the wall of the cage, the side wall of the cage, and then use his back legs to open up the.
Unbelievable.
Serious.
So it turns out it wasn't Andrew's fault.
It wasn't your fault.
Technically neither of our faults.
Yeah.
Although I did put the sliding glass doors on the cage, so maybe it was my fault for not putting a latch or a lock or something on there.
The first time that you saw this happen, did you go, "Well, I'll be darned"?
Yeah, makes sense. Somebody asked who manufactured the PVC cages. So we were dealing with Doug Barr at Herp Cages, but it's now Paul from PM Herps. If you want ones that look like ours, you need to ask for these ones specifically because they don't usually make or sell these ones at shows.
Ah,
So we've got these set up. The ones behind us, aside from the hex corner cages, are pairs of 16 by 16 by 24 high. So it's like 32 wide, 16 deep, and 24 high with a divider down the middle. And then I've got those also in 3-packs. So they're right about 48 inches wide. And then I've also got 12 by 12 by 18s and 4-packs and 8 by 8 by 12s and 6-packs. So almost everything comes down to close to 4 feet if I'm running them as an assembly on like a rack. And then I custom make racks for everything to move them around.
what are you keeping the babies in? What? You have smaller-
So
6
hatchlings are mostly starting off in 6-quart bins.
Mhm.
And then we've got the men's shoebox bin, which I don't know is like 12 or 15 quarts. These are the shoebox or container store bins. And then we've got what's called the sweater box and the tall sweater box for bins.
Perfect. Angie is asking, I'd like to know how much gecko diet they go through in a month.
I have no idea. I could probably calculate it out. It's not honestly that bad. We go through each feeding, we go through about 6 cups of mixed diet. So total, like with the water. It's only like 2.5 to 3 cups of diet will feed everything in the room.
Okay.
So it's really not that bad. I don't know how much it is for sure, like per month, but
Yeah.
How
it's
long does it
negligible
take
for
you?
what's that?
Sorry, how long does it take you to feed?
If we were just going to go through and just put food in, it would probably take like an hour and a half to 2 hours, but we usually spend 6 to 8 hours potentially between the two of us at least 2 to 3 times a week because we're cleaning and changing out food bowls and doing other stuff. So it's a full day to feed as it is right now. I think our caretaker takes around 4 to 5 hours to do everything. But that's usually when we've got everything pretty well dialed in before she has to take care of stuff. She's not cleaning cages. She's just visually quickly checking on animals that need it and just kind of doing water and food.
I am sure that helps out a lot. A lot.
Yeah.
We have a question from Cassandra. Are there any species of geckos that you would like to work with but haven't worked with yet? I bet you I can name one, but I'll wait for your answer.
There's a lot. Most of the species of Europolatus that we haven't worked with or didn't do well with when we were only able to get wild caught animals 10 or 15 years ago. I'm sure. Do you want me to guess which one you're going to say, Wally?
Yeah, go ahead, try.
Periodura masobe.
Oh, wow. Really?
No,
It's not.
What if I have what you're thinking of?
I obviously I love Masobe, but I'm surprised that would be on your list, considering that it's not a New Caledonia, but you guys work with so many. I shouldn't be surprised. I would have thought, but now thinking about it, either you probably already keep them or you have in the past and don't anymore for some reason. But trackies, the live bearing.
So I've not personally kept them. We've worked with them in friends' collections and stuff. The lessers don't do much for me. The graders are pretty cool. I think they're neat. I don't know. I think if I were going to get some, I'd go for the graders just because, bigger is better most of the time. But I think they're cool. I don't know. They're just, I honestly, like, if I had to pick two of the New Caledonian species, like, just as far as like cool factor, like wild type, like, it's really hard to beat a crested gecko. They're freaking cool. Like, even in the most plain Jane wild form, they're just freaking cool. And then kahua there's a reason why we keep a fair amount of them. I just think they're super smart and freaking awesome.
I'm going to see if I can do this real quick here. But so everybody, I've seen a couple of comments. I love the way he pronounces, and then they spell, kahua. So that's the new thing. You have to pronounce it with the K.
Is that pretty?
So
I'm going to go back. Bear with me, folks. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, there's some nice high white animals there from a couple of years ago.
These are smoking hot.
That's a pretty good group there.
Man,
I think those all hatched out when we were at Tinley one year.
Yeah, we were literally gone at Tinley, and we hadn't hatched out like hardly any nice, like what we would consider to be stellar kahua for like almost the whole season, like aside from like a couple. And then we came back from Tinley, from the fall Tinley, and Sarah's mom had all those in deli cups.
Yay!
Yeah.
You should leave her in charge more often.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, the kahua thing, actually the first time I ever heard that was at the New Caledonian Gecko Symposium that Alan put on in 2006.
Wow.
Aaron Bauer was the first person that we ever heard pronounce it that way. And we were all like,
no,
like, why would you say it that way? And so we've gone 14, 15, 16 years since then, just to get to the point where we were going to start to actually say kahua, because we were saying chahua up until December of last year.
It was yesterday for me.
So the thing is it makes sense. And the reason it makes sense, it's just weird. Like, there's a lot of other things that we say that way. Do you say chameleon? No, you say chameleon. There's a ton of words that you say ka with a ch at the beginning of it. And just, I think based in Latin, it should not be chahua. Mm-hmm. A big part of it, though, is like, well, we're speaking English, and it makes sense to say chahua for us when we look at it. And so it's like maybe just like essentially like a locality thing where in our language it makes sense to do it. But then at the same time, I'm like, I don't say La Jolla, California. I say La Jolla, right?
Derek
and that's
does,
yeah. Derek Dunlop says La Jolla. But then it's like, well, when you think about it, well, that was also supposed to be not spelled the way it's spelled, anyways. But I didn't realize like saguaro cactus wasn't pronounced saguaro. I'm like, but I speak Spanish decently well, you know? And so I'm like, well, it makes sense. So once I learned it, I try to fix it. And it just made sense to actually try to fix it, like, finally, 20 years later.
It's so I was raised on tropical fish, so everything in tropical fish, you know, years ago, 100 years ago, when I was keeping them, everything was by Latin name. Very few fish, unless you were keeping guppies or platies or something like that. Everything had Latin names, so I got used to a lot of the Latin names. But you're absolutely right. I've been saying Chihuahua forever.
Yeah.
But it makes 100% sense that it would be Kahua.
So now the next question is it leaky anus? Because they are kind of leaky anuses, right? And it's like in the name.
From this moment forward, they will always be leaky anus in my mind. That is how I will say it moving forward. Did you have a question, Annette?
I hit a bunch of them.
Okay. Let's see if we've done this one. I've got a question. What species? We already talked about that. Unless you missed one of your species that's kind of high on your list.
I just, I don't know.
I've forgotten a lot of ones we.
Yeah, I really love like all the Europlatus species. Like I'd like to keep like Giganteus and even like Fimbriatus and some of those things, but they're just so finicky. And I don't know that I'll ever keep them again. Maybe sometime when I set up like a dedicated room for them. I would, but like in our current setup, that's not in the works.
Yeah.
Aside from like specific animals, there's certainly animals we've gotten rid of that we kind of wish that we hadn't, that we still had to keep for breeding or whatever else. But once you sell something, unless it's to a good friend, it's almost impossible to find it 10 or 15 years down the road. I've tried and it's pretty tough.
It's extremely tough and it's frustrating and it's kind of sad, but it is, you know, what it is. You think you're keeping Satanics? How many? I don't know if you're keeping them in groups or how many are you keeping? And do you think that just a pair? Do you think that knowledge and keeping them would help with the others?
I think that, and just being able to potentially get truly captive animals. So when we were getting stuff in the past, it was $50, $75 a piece, wild caught. You know, some of it would look decent and it would just tank in a month or two. It's just really hard to work with. It's kind of a blessing in disguise when the prices skyrocket and the wild imports drop, because then people really like focus in and hone in the craft of keeping and breeding them versus just bringing them in by the hundreds and having 90% of them die.
Yes.
And, you know, it's terrible to see that happen. But it's great. It's great when the hobbyists really key in on like how to work through stuff. So now I think it would be more of us actually learning from the people we're getting from rather than just getting them. And these people are doing well with them and breeding them. So I think that is a big part of that. And that goes back to Periodura masobe. Cat geckos used to be the same way before somebody really like keyed in on how sensitive they were to various water types and, you know, supplementation and stuff like that. So there are a lot of people working really hard to dial in just one species, and they lock it in and they do fantastic with it. And then sometimes they move on or they just keep working with just a few species. So,
well, and to your point earlier that you were talking about, you know, the number of species has grown in some of these groups. Eric Nelson working with, what is it, Incisus, the little teeny tiny clawed geckos.
Yeah.
And realizing that, you know, everything that's coming in isn't one species, it's 4 or 5 or 6 different species. And let me count the scales and you know, the dedication that somebody like that shows to the hobby is
Ebonavia or whatever. It's the Ebonavia, right?
Yes, exactly. It's hard to dedicate that much time to one animal.
Well, Eric's one of those guys that will pick a species like that and dial it in, because he did really well with the little plated lizards, or I can't think of the genus right now, but he did really great with those things. Or it took him a while to get him going, but he was one of the few people actually captive producing them and stuff too. So props to people that really dial that kind of stuff in and work through that stuff. So
Cassandra stole one of my questions. Do you have any future plans or goals for the company? Give me a 1-year plan. Where do you want to be in 1 year? Give me a 5-year. Where do you want to see the company in 5 years?
Honestly, a 1 year plan is to basically just do what we've been doing, but try to do it better. Like we're still amazed that like we were able to do everything we were before, both working close to full time, and still doing basically the same amount of animals. And now that we're doing just the animals and like disc golf stuff, that we don't have more time. But I think we're just doing a better job of what we were doing before. You know what I mean? Like what I said about surviving versus thriving. Like we're finding little things, even in a shoebox bin. Like, okay, these animals do better with a human hide. It's more work to spray down a human hide and keep it clean and have like a climbing structure and other things in a shoebox when you have 300 of them. But if the animals do better from us and we have fewer shedding issues and we're less likely to pull a gecko to ship it out, and we're like, oh, this, something's a little bit off on this and I can't send it out or whatever, because we're never going to send out something that like we know has an issue. Like all of those things that we can eliminate in the process, even if it takes more time up front, kind of saves us time in the long run, and the animals do better overall. So
it pays off. Obviously, it pays off with the care that you're giving the animals in the long run. Like you said, I'm going to share this question real quick, and then I'm going to jump onto a couple of other questions. And then, folks, we have some giveaways tonight, too. Andrew and Sarah have generously donated some gifts, and we'll talk about those in just a second. DNA Gecko says, what genetics are you most excited about? And I'm not sure if they mean crested geckos or just genetics. And
I'm guessing they're talking specifically crested geckos. Honestly, I'm not super excited about most of them.
That's a stupid smile on your face.
There's always a stupid smile on my face, or at least a stupid look.
There's probably a stupid smile on my face as well, Sarah.
Yeah.
I can't. You and you two and Kyle and Crystal, I think the three of, and we're not the only ones, obviously. I think we're all on the exact same page.
So, I don't know. I think sables can be cool. I think that mixing caps in with some things that maybe they haven't been mixed with, or just different varieties that haven't been mixed or stacked yet, can be interesting. I don't keep any caps. I don't keep any Xanthics. I don't keep any sable. We were one of the first people to get lily whites in the country back in the day. And when we did it, we only got a couple because I don't want to focus on some of that stuff, like just all in. But I think some of it can be interesting to make some pretty cool looking stuff. My issue personally with some of like the Xanthic animals and some of the other combos is I feel like you can already make very similar looking animals that just don't have that specific trait in it. Yeah, it might be a little bit.
Say that. If you didn't say that, I was going to, because what we're seeing from a lily whites, and I'm going to step on you for just a second. I apologize, but what we're seeing in lily whites, the high whites and creaminess, you guys have been doing that for 15 or more years.
There's a fair amount of people that have been producing a lot of really nice animals that are I've got some animals that are not lily white that are significantly more white than the lilies. It's a cool trait. We definitely work with it. But I also, especially right now with the fluctuation in the pricing on stuff, I'll buy caps, and I'm not going to plan to produce super caps, but I'll try to mix caps in with other genes. There's some other stuff that we're kind of working with here that I think would be pretty interesting just to see what it looks like with cap mixed in. But I didn't see that one.
I took it off real quick.
I also look at some of these animals, and like if they're just not that exciting for me to look at, I'm not that interested in picking them up, especially if it's for a pretty high price. So when some of those come down to a more reasonable price for me to feel like I want to jump in on it, then I'll play around with them. I'm not opposed to working with them. I just don't see a point personally in spending a ton of money on something that I'm not super excited about.
There's a part of like working with a certain line for so many years or project, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It makes it more rewarding too. Not that I love the lily whites, and I don't mind. I just don't know a lot about the newer traits and genes that have come out. So I think Andrew and I are still learning a lot about it. So we just don't want to jump into something like he said with the prices kind of being all over the place right now and stuff too. But we'll probably eventually get a cap or maybe a sable down the road, but we're not in any rush to do it.
I'll tag on to what you guys are saying, and especially the point about there's already some really cool looking animals out there right now. The empty blacks, dark side geckos are making some beautiful dark animals. You guys with your cake frosting whites and just amazing animals. I'm interested in some of these other traits, morphs, to see what the end is going to be. This isn't obviously the end. This is a means toward the end in many cases. Maybe not, maybe it is, but I want to see where we are in 5 years or so. Are we going to develop something that's just, blood red and white, like you guys have the white on your animals? That would be cool. So
there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming up, and there's so many different ways to mix. And like Sarah said, we're just now, not just us personally, learning and understanding, thanks to some of the stuff that like Foundation Genetics is working on, and other people are finally starting to understand even some more basic genetic traits that we're working towards some stuff, just learning how to understand it, and also trying to like work backwards. Like, I haven't seen the phantom come from some of these animals for 2 or 3 generations, but then we find out and we start noting, okay, this animal is het phantom, and we start keeping track of some of that, and we use it then to try to make other looks that we're going for, or try to keep it out of other projects that we start working on and stuff. So
exactly.
It's been fun to learn about. And I like the way like fraps look, and some of that other stuff is super interesting looking. We haven't felt the need to buy into it, because personally I think that the prices are gonna become a lot more reasonable fairly quickly on a lot of it, and I'll wait for that time, since I've got other projects here that I'm just as equally interested in working on, that I've already got. So,
and busy with, and on that same line, as long as my feeling is, as long as we're not seeing degradation to the genetics, let's move forward. It's not part of what I want to do here, but I would certainly be opposed if it's causing issues with the genetics of the animals. Throw that out there. I'm looking for
about 5 years from now too. Honestly, it's not really going to come down to the business so much here, because we're not super interested in expanding upon where we are. We're just interested in diversifying a bit, whether that's species or just projects, without expanding the overall number of mouths to feed and have to find homes for and stuff like that. So I think at this point, it's just try to become more efficient with what we've been doing and do a better job of it. And at the same time, I mean, it's going to come down to financial goals, like what would you like to, would you like to have your house paid off in 5 years or something like that? I mean, we've got goals, but it's not coming down to necessarily what's going on in this room. It's just in general lifestyle and life changes and stuff that we'd be shooting for, but not reptile related specifically. So,
and I can see you guys saying that, because you're so active in the community, you're so active personally, with the travels and everything else that you guys are doing. You're just not focused, 100% laser focused on geckos. You're all over the place, and that's pretty cool to watch you guys do different things like that. I have about 168 different questions here, but I'm going to skip all of them in favor of doing a real quick. We're going to do the giveaway right after this, folks. After this, and I have 1 or 2 more questions for you guys. A little bit, maybe more serious, maybe not. I don't know.
Me, I can talk forever.
We could, and I don't want to keep you guys, forever. Frank would, if he were here, he would say 24 more hours. Frank left. This is a little game that I call Hit It or Quit It. You've probably already seen this on somebody else's show, but these are real quick questions. and you guys have to answer in one word or just a couple of words. So we're going to go really quick through these.
Is
Usually,
this win
I'm
or
the one-
lose or just whatever comes out here?
whatever
Whatever you
comes out,
say.
first
All right.
response. It's like holding up a card and getting a first
And you
response.
can't
All right.
elaborate on the answers either.
That's going to be the hard part.
I
So,
know.
what's your favorite food, Sarah?
Oh my gosh. Well, we love making our calzones, so I'll go with calzones.
Very cool. Andrew?
Mine's basically the same, but pizza.
Okay. So you,
That
you
sounds
should have
really
said,
good
"Oh,
about
when
right
Sarah
now."
makes calzone, that's my favorite food."
You're
Take
not
them
supposed to
together,
do
and
that.
we usually complain about it the whole time. So
Favorite binge watching show over the last 10 years. Something that you turned on and you went, "Oh my gosh, we have to see every single episode." Or do you guys watch movies more, like a series, like Avengers or something like that?
We watch mostly disc golf and crime shows. we like murder type shows.
NCIS and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Forensics Files.
Forensic Files. Yeah, we binge watch that.
Okay.
you want just one?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Stranger Things is probably my most recent one that I felt like was pretty locked in for me.
Breaking
The
Bad.
reason, so Nanette and I started watching that, and we're in season 3. And we literally got to a point where
I'm
and
done.
no offense to
The
anybody.
first 2 seasons were pretty sweet. The third one, it gets a little, but for the first couple, I was like, this is pretty sweet.
Okay, okay.
Like Sarah said, Breaking Bad. You got Dexter. You've got a whole bunch of
Yeah,
other
those are all
awesome
good
ones.
too.
So
We haven't seen
Breaking
Dexter.
Bad for me was, it's hard to beat something like
Yeah,
that.
I feel like
Sopranos was right here, but Breaking Bad was just
I feel like start to finish, Breaking Bad was probably the most well produced, like most engaging show that I've seen for that many seasons. Because if you want to just talk like a couple seasons, Walking Dead was pretty awesome for 3 seasons too, and it was like,
Are they like season 18?
I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. At a certain point, I'm like, I got to keep watching because I have all this time invested, right? But it's like, if I feel like I'm just watching it because I've invested time, then I just gotta cut it off. So
exactly. What would you rather spend the day doing? Answering emails, answering people's questions, PM on social media, or behind a table at a reptile show?
reptile show,
Yeah.
0 question.
Outstanding. Sarah, same?
Yep, same. Yeah.
No doubt. Crickets, a blessing or a curse?
I've never thought of it as a blessing.
And this is another hour.
I'm gonna go for blessing just
Yeah.
because they're actually really cheap. Like,
Easy to bring
That's
in,
about
easy
the
to
only
feed.
thing they got going for them.
yeah.
What's your Sarah, same?
Yeah, I would say more blessing than curse.
I was
Yeah.
actually just talking to AJ Davidson about this, I think yesterday, because it was just like,
You know these
I've
questions.
produced crickets myself, but I'm looking at like I get a 8,000 crickets in or whatever, and I'm like, think about how much time it takes to pack these things up and pay for just even the boxes and
Mhm.
somebody to take the orders and everything else. And I hope nobody from Gans or anywhere else is listening, but it ain't worth my time to do that. I can tell you that much.
They have to have it down to a science. I think the same thing with mealworms. We feed a lot of mealworms, and just to get 40,000 mealworms, I can't imagine the time it would take me to go through that. This is not hit it and quit it by
No, it
humans,
is not.
it?
All right, I'll speed it up. It's not my fault.
No,
That's
no,
his fault.
it's my fault. Don't kid
It's his
yourself.
fault.
What's your favorite thing to do in the facility? Sarah, go.
Gosh, why do I always have to go first? I would say I honestly enjoy feeding the geckos and just it's relaxing to me. So
I like organizing the geckos because I get to look at everything super close.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. I like that. Andrew, what's your least favorite thing to do?
Jump and hit my head on the ceiling.
Don't do that.
I've only done it once, but it almost
Once
knocked
enough.
me out.
The spiders. The spiders are the worst.
Spiders.
Yes.
Yeah.
They get under the cages and we'll clean them out and it seems like they're back the next day. It's
We're
never
going to
ending.
lose all of the people watching right now, but I have a little mini vac
Oh, good Lord.
downstairs
Don't go there.
specifically for that purpose. So I collect them, then I take them outside. And music genre. What do you guys like to? You're downstairs. You're downstairs. You're in your facility, and you turn something on. What are you turning on?
I've just got random stuff on Pandora. I mean, there's so many different ones.
Yeah.
I'll listen to just about anything except for like new pop and super hillbilly country stuff.
I feel like one of our favorites is classic rock,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
80s rock. We like that.
But we got everything going on, and then podcasts, so that
Yeah.
doesn't really count.
It's hard for me with podcasts because I find myself stopping all the time and writing stuff down. You know, I watched the AJ that you guys were on, and I found myself taking notes throughout, so I never got anything done. We have some gifts, so give me a second here. Why don't you guys talk about the gifts real quick? And I'm going to see if I can jump over to the screen here.
Well, do you want to do all 3 sets now, or do you want to save one for like future comments or people that couldn't make it to live, or what are you thinking there?
Let's do them all right now.
Okay.
And if somebody wants one, they can contact you. I put your link in the chat, but I'm going to do that again real quick here.
He's got photos of it.
Okay.
You're going to throw the photos up too, Wally?
Yes, I am.
Cool. Well, basically, one set of gifts are, and I guess you can give them the choice of which one they choose, or we just pick one and go through probably that way. You want to throw the first one up?
Yeah, give me a second here.
No worries. That way we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. It's more fun when you don't know.
I mean, it could be interesting.
A brand new car.
That'd be sweet if we could give those away.
Okay.
I'd take one.
That window. Here we go. Share. There we go.
Sweet. All right. So this is just some 3D printed stuff. We've got some articulated geckos. The eye and the gecko are like little gyro fidget spinners that are pretty sweet. And then we've got some LAC Herps food bowl holders, which are pretty cool. The cups actually snap in. So
Nice.
like they like snap in good enough to like actually hold the piece. So the first giveaway is for your choice of 5 pieces total. And we've got a whole bunch of different color combos of the lizards and the gyro spinners and stuff.
Do I have to write stuff down?
Outstanding. You can contact, I guess, you guys directly.
Yeah.
If you win. Yes, Nanette. So what we're going to do is, because I have planned nothing here, is we're going to take, there's 40 people watching, so we're going to take a number. Nanette, write down a number.
Oh, you're going to do that?
Yes, we are. And this is going to be a pain in the butt.
Nobody
but
can
this is
see
the
me
easiest.
writing,
Oh, that's so
Angie.
cool. I want to show this real quick. Take a look at that. That's pretty cool.
All right. So what is this?
Yeah, so this is a Kahua eye
Oh, wow.
that we designed into this, and then it says LAC Herps around the rim.
Nice.
And then
See on the black ones.
yep, and then this is just a little crested gecko. This is the same design that's in the pendants that we'll be doing later.
Don't guess numbers yet. They're guessing numbers.
Okay, I'm going
All
to
right,
put.
so is this for 5 pieces of this combination?
It's-
Did
you
I
can pick-
understand it wrong?
You
5.
could pick
And you can,
5 food bowl holders. You could pick 5 geckos. You could pick
Got it.
one of each, whatever you want.
Okay.
okay, when I put in the word now, you're going to guess a number. And the very first number that we find, and help us out with this, people in the chat, that's the winner. Okay, ready? And so it's 1 through 40. Guess a number. Now.
Nothing's happening.
It takes just like
Okay.
5 seconds. There we go. Getting some numbers. So we're going to scroll through these real quick and hopefully get the number popping up here. I almost said the number. Honest to goodness, I almost said, well, I
You
don't
did
see
that
number.
one time on one of our other shows.
I'm sure it was more than one time.
It's just a practice round.
Well, did you get the prize then, Wally?
Oh, it's there.
There we go.
Yeah.
We have a winner.
Woohoo!
MSC Murphy, and I put your LAC Herps link in the comments, and I can do that at the end here as well.
Sweet.
Did
Yeah,
you get
shoot
the
us a
name?
message
I
on
got her.
Instagram or Facebook Messenger, and we'll get something sent out for you.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, let me show this next one.
Okay, I need another number.
I'm doing two.
You need another number.
Yes.
Give me a second here. Okay, here we go. It's just shocking that I can flip screens like this. Tell me about these golf discs.
So
cool.
I am sponsored by Dynamic Discs, and one of the things I get to do is have some custom stamps made through them. So I of course did gecko themed. Have the gecko foot and the gecko eye,
Cool.
which Andrew helped design most of those stamps. So, and then the bottom one is I won the putting world championship last year. So it's a pretty big deal. So it's like a
Congratulations.
commemorative disc. So I also have that one. So you get a choice of 2 discs, and I've got some other ones just to show here. But I've got all sorts of different color combos and molds and everything.
So, yeah, your choice of 2. We have putters, mid ranges, fairway drivers, and drivers that the person can contact us and tell us what they
prefer.
want. So
How cool.
Yeah.
So again, being on top of everything, I failed to mention that you guys have supported the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas. We're going into our 13th year, and you've supported like 20 of those 13 years. In all seriousness, so folks, thank you for supporting this event so much. I
you're
greatly
welcome. Thank you for all the hard work that you do to put it together.
Exactly.
It's a fun thing, and it's all because of you guys donating wonderful gifts. Nanette, and I'm assuming that whoever wins is going to get a signature on the the golf disc by a champion.
Yeah, sure, if they want it.
Yeah, if they,
I'm
they
sure
can
they
request
want
it. Yeah.
Okay, we have a number. We have a number between 1 and 40, folks, right now. Go to it. There's always a delay of like 5 or 6 seconds.
Ready?
A delay.
A delay.
When's it?
It's still delaying.
Bueller.
There we go.
Bueller.
All right, let's see who that was.
Okay, are you
quick.
watching?
Well,
Are you watching?
Well, not when you scroll like that. I can't.
You know, I do that
up
on
and down,
purpose
up and down,
all
so that
the
I go
time.
crazy. I know what you do.
Oh, there we go. We do have a winner.
Speleomander.
There's no way I
Yeah.
can read that name. It's Salamander. No, that's not the name.
Speleomander.
Thank you.
Speleomander. I'm not sure. I like it though.
We enter like
Winner,
multiple
winner.
times.
And if you want to see, maybe I can get 30.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
got to
you
make
get
it
it
legit,
yeah.
Wally.
Yeah, I
You
guess.
just wrote that down.
I'm
on the
just kind of
side.
coming up with numbers as I wanted to come up.
Yeah.
There's the 14 that we had sitting there. Okay,
Nice. Heck yeah.
very cool.
What was the last one?
The pendant.
Yeah.
And talk to us about this. This has been in our 12 Supreme Days of Christmas event
Mhm.
for a number of years, and people love this.
Yeah, so it's just a small stainless steel crested gecko pendant. I think I designed it in like 2016, and I have a friend that makes a bunch of these pieces for like bike themed things and just other sports. So we can set that up like as you see in the picture there, where it just comes with a little stainless steel chain, or we can put a little split ring on it so you can use it for a zipper pull, or we can set them up as earrings. So some people take like a pair of earrings and then a necklace or whatever. So you get to pick whatever combination of those 3 that you want. So this is for 3 pieces, and not that you can really tell for sure, but it was based on Lelarap here.
Oh my gosh.
The OG. It was just a kind of a top shot that I took of him, and then just did the little line work to make the piece. So, but yeah.
Oh, I have to.
We produced him back in
This is really cool.
2007, I think. So,
Okay, let's do a number. Do you have a number?
There's your number.
So I shouldn't show the number right
Don't
now,
show
right?
the
Okay,
number.
don't show the
yeah,
number now.
don't say it either, Wally.
What's that?
I said don't say it either. Don't
I
say the
can't do
number.
both. You can't expect me to do both things. Okay,
Yeah.
go now. It's a number between 1 and 40.
Spielmander's confused on what number they won on.
They won on
38.
the 38, the golf disc.
Oh, you got to scroll up. There's
Okay.
numbers here, and I can't see.
You're not watching this?
Well, it went too quick. Okay, stop.
I know.
You are just.
We've got a winner.
No, we don't.
Winner.
Oh, now we do.
So
Fishy plumber.
for the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas, we were getting about 400 to 500 people, and I suggested doing something like this and was vetoed immediately before the whole
Yeah.
thought
Yeah,
came
like that's
came
gonna
out.
happen.
So the fish plumber,
The fishy plumber.
the fishy plumber,
Heck yeah.
very cool.
Show the number.
There you go.
Sweet. Yeah, just shoot us a message on Instagram or Facebook and we'll get something set up for you. You can let us know what you want.
Very cool. Hey folks, we're going to keep Andrew and Sarah for another 5 minutes if you don't mind.
However long you want.
You guys, if you have questions, let me know. I think I've covered all the questions that were out there before. While you guys think of a question, this is your chance. I mean, top gecko breeders right here, folks. Ask them a question.
Well, you want me to throw in a couple of tips real quick for photography while we're waiting?
There you go.
right.
Absolutely.
Number one, white balance. This is called a gray card. You can set custom white balance with this. You just take a photo of this in your lighting conditions and then set it into your custom white balance for your camera. You can use a white sheet of paper too, but this is technically for it. It's got instructions and stuff on the back.
Nice.
That's number one, because white balance is super important. Number two, actually, this is probably the number one tip I give people. Use a model. As stupid as it sounds, use a freaking model to set up your photography setup and use it every single time to get it dialed in before you take photos. It's a lot easier to get your lighting and flashes or whatever white balance setup with this than it is stressing out an animal and stressing out yourself and then not getting the photos you want because you didn't take the time to do this first. I bet I have like
Who stresses out over photography.
You never stress over photography.
I bet I have like 10,000 photos of this stupid freaking lizard model here. And it's so simple. And I literally use it every single time that I'm at the house before I shoot photos of animals because I get everything dialed in with that.
You gave me this tip again many years ago.
You haven't done it?
No, I have done it. Literally that day, I grabbed a Hot Wheel and put it on the table and reeled off and wrote everything down, like 100 pictures and settings, and looked at it and literally went, this one sucks. This is terrible. I don't want to do this.
It helps you learn all the settings, and then it lets you know where to start in order to work, your exposure from one side to the other after you do. So now you have a pretty good idea how stuff is going to look right off the bat, and then you just make minor adjustments from there. But it's something super simple, and it can be literally anything. Ideally, something that can show shadows a little bit or stands up a little bit or whatever, but super easy.
I take crappy photos and then I just feed it into AI, Chat GPT, and it changes everything for me. So I'm good. It does all the photoshopping and everything for me.
Does everything.
Everything.
Yeah. That little link you're talking about had 4 kids in detention today.
Oh, kids at school don't.
7th graders
chat.
don't be
listen
doing
to Wally.
Oopsie.
Okay. I'm looking at questions. We had one question, Angie.
She's had a couple questions.
I lost it. What's your electric bill?
That's a little
electricity around here is not that bad. I think we are probably running close to 2 to 3 times the normal electrical load of homes in this area. And the highest it gets is like 300 a month,
400
maybe 400.
Yeah.
But I mean, some places I think in Nevada and California and stuff will hit double that on like way less usage than what we're at. So it is what it is. I've looked into doing solar and doing all sorts of other things, but we've got a lot of trees and we'd only hit like a 30 to 40% payoff. And if our bill was $600 or $700 a month, then I think it would pay it off sooner, but at only a 30 to 40% payoff, like it's a pretty hard sell for the cost of solar.
That makes all the sense in the world. That's a low cost for electric, though. I think that's great.
I mean, we also, when we set this room up, we rebuilt all the walls and insulated everything, and you know, we're controlling the temperature of what we need to, where we need to, versus everything, you know.
And I think that you have to if you're planning on doing this for a long time. Angie has another question. What's your daily routine? Now, this could be a 2-hour question, but we'll try
Hit
to
it or
keep
quit it.
Yeah, hit it or quit it.
Well, on feeding days, it's get up and start feeding as soon as possible, so you get that done, or enough of it done that you feel like you can go out and do something else for a little bit. Other than that, it's literally answering social media questions, setting up shipments. I mean, to do an availability update for us takes 2 full days just to take photos, and then another 2 full days to just label and organize photos into like their templates and stuff. And sometimes in those 2 days, you can get some of the stuff listed on the website. That's not accounting for listing the stuff to Morph Market and everything else. So there's a lot that goes into posting up 100 plus animals in one go. So, but other than that, like the misting is all automated. Aside from bins, which we only do when we're feeding anyways. So we're not coming in like manually spraying bins. The lighting's all automated. Every day we go in and like water the crickets and roaches and feed those. So we have to do that every day. The humidifiers are automatic. So we've automated a lot of what we can, which is really nice and saves a lot of time, but still have to do a lot of that stuff manually at some point too. So
that has to help out. I'm going to ask this real quick. Do you guys have a favorite gecko in your facility?
I have lots of favorite geckos. My favorite crested gecko is probably Swagger. If I had to pick a favorite crested, and then favorite non-New Caledonian would probably be the giant frog-eyed geckos.
Oh my gosh.
Keratoskincus, those are freaking funny, man.
They've been kind of one of my favorites lately.
Which species do you have?
Kaiser Langai,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got my first egg today I got a pair a while back, and I got my very first egg today.
Heck
So
yeah,
cool.
sweet,
Thank you.
I mean, for me, there's so many cool geckos in here.
Yeah.
The one species that's probably my favorite, I'm not gonna actually disclose right now. Maybe if we produce some, we might.
You tease.
Mention it. Sorry. But probably I really like the blue tree monitor just for like interaction, but the green keeled lizards are freaking awesome.
Really?
Yeah, I mean they're diurnal, so they're not out right now, but they're literally like tiny bright green monitor lizards. And they're so smart. I mean, you can put a little dubia in and they just kind of do this triangulation thing where they're really key, and they'll just hand feed, and they have a ridiculous like defensive pose where they'll like stand up and open their mouth and just like dangle their tongue out of their mouth and stuff. They're pretty awesome.
Very personable. Very interactive.
Smart. Yeah, I really like those.
The leaf tails are always up there too.
Oh yeah, if I had to pick the Saltuaria salabrosus, the giant rough-throated Australian leaf tails, those are really freaking cool. I sent you a hatchling photo of the one.
Yes. It would take me an hour to find that now, unfortunately. We're going to have to, people are going to have to go to Facebook to see that picture.
No worries. The Tokay is ripping again.
Sounds like a dog barking.
He's a little upset he's not the favorite.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you guys one more question, then I'll leave you for the night. This has been a fantastic show. And again, we could deep dive into any one of these questions and spend an hour. But here's the final thought for the night from both of you. I guess I'm going to ask Andrew to answer first and then Sarah, because I've been picking on Sarah all night. But what's one thought about yourself or your animals or your business that you'd like to share that people wouldn't expect from LAC Herps or from you guys?
One
thought about yourself. What's that?
It's so broad. It's hard to narrow it down, I guess. I don't know. I think a lot of people maybe just assume that you get to where you're at and you're just like, you're there. Like you didn't like work to get there. You know what I mean? Like, and I've done the same thing. Like, I'm just like, oh, that person, you know,
just handed all that.
just handed all that. And then, so they've got all these super, you know, they've got nice animals, or they've got a nice car or whatever. There's like a lot of people work their butts off to get to that point. And certainly some people are afforded a little more to start with to get to that point, you know, but,
it takes a lot. I was going to say something along these lines too. It takes a lot of heart too, and just passion to get where you're at and be successul.
Yeah. And I mean, people might look at photos of the room and stuff and be like, well, yeah, we want to get there, or I don't have the money to do that or whatever. This is done with selling animals, like doing something that we love to do. Like it's not, we could have put all these animals in bins, but we did it because I'm sure the animals benefit from it to a degree, but also it makes it tolerable to basically live in a basement and feed geckos and clean gecko poop all day. Right?
That's a really, really good point. And to even accentuate your point about, you know, it doesn't come overnight. Again, every answer that you guys are kind of walking through tonight, it feels like for me that it's been based on years and years of experience and trying things and maybe doing some things wrong, but doing a lot of things right and building up that to the point where you've eliminated a lot of the things that you don't want to do or that just doesn't work for you to get to this point.
Yeah, I say that a lot in the photography stuff when I am explaining photography things to people, but it goes for the animals also. Like, try new things. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it's still a learning process. So at least if you learn that doesn't work, well, it might help you find something that does work, or it at least pushes you in a different direction to really dial in the things that are working. So I think that's certainly very important for people to work on too. And just because you read somewhere that this is the way that it has to be done, like I also used to tell people you could only feed things crested gecko diet, and that was the best way. I don't think that anymore. I think there's still great products, but we still feed live food now. And there's a lot of things that I would have said 10 or 15 years ago that I would say are not maybe completely wrong now, but not the best way to do stuff or entirely true. So you live and you learn
new things, new information comes out.
Yep.
Sarah, you've had now 3 or 4 minutes to think about this question.
And I took most of your answer.
Yeah, he did. I just told you.
Same as him.
First time.
Ditto.
My main thing was going along with what he said. Just like I said, truly having the heart and passion behind it to make it successful. And it's a team effort for us. There's just like any relationship, there's good days and bad days, but you figure out how to work through things, and it's not for everybody, but we're lucky to have each other and work through everything and be able to do this together. So
I talk to a lot of couples in these lives, at shows, online, and I get a lot of responses where, well, I do the gecko thing, or I do the reptile thing, or the snake thing, or whatever. My wife kind of likes to walk in or the husband likes to kind of walk in and look at them once in a while. I feel obviously blessed to have Nanette help so much and share so much of our interest, what we're doing here. I feel the same with you, and I'll say it again with Kyle and Crystal. It's a truly, we're blessed to have the same interest like that. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I left a link to your website here. How else can people contact you?
We have Instagram and Facebook. It's just LAC Herps on both. I think it's LAC_Herps on Instagram. But then it's just LAC Herps on Facebook.
And we're on Morph Market.
Yes, Morph Market.
So a message, we'll probably respond to messages quickest on Facebook Messenger, like our business Facebook page, or Instagram. But our website is lacherps.com. There's always a lot of availability there. But if you have any questions and you're not on Instagram or Facebook, you can shoot us a message on our website or whatever. Happy to answer questions when we have time. And
email is just lacherps@gmail.com. So
yeah.
Pretty simple.
Perfect. This has been a blast. I knew it would be. If you guys are up for it, I'm hoping that maybe we could do a part 2 and we can talk more specifics on some of the animals that you're working with. Just kind of dig a little bit deeper. This has been a blast for us.
Yeah.
And
Well, we're
hopefully for you too.
happy to be here with you guys, and thanks to everybody that joined in and asked questions and made it a little more interactive than me just chatting with Wally like we do all the time. So. Not that I mind that. I'm just saying it changes it up a little bit and brings in some different questions and stuff. So
what I heard was,
I think that, the perspective certainly changes after, maybe you've only been keeping animals for a year or two and you're really getting into it and what questions you might ask versus, we might talk about even the most basic husbandry, stuff on a hatching crested gecko, but it's because we're really trying to dial it in and we've been doing that for 15 years. So.
we could talk this whole time that we've talked tonight. We could talk about temperature control on hatching crested gecko babies, right? We could talk 2 hours on that.
Yeah.
Next show that will be part 7. So, guys, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. It's been a thrill. It's been educational. I've had a blast. I hope you have too.
Thanks, Wally. It was a good time.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Thanks again.
Good night.
Night all.